Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm still on vacation, enjoying my time touching grass, maybe playing with a little bit of fire.
Are you done yet?
But we got some important news from BSG I wanted to share with all of you all, some stuff that has to do with the wipe, and maybe getting items deleted, a Nikki leak, and as well as a potential discount you guys might be interested in. So we'll do the best with what we have here. Crappy lighting, it is what it is. We'll try not to show the camera too much. All right, so first up, let's get a little news out of the way. Right now, as of July 2nd, there is a 22% discount on upgrades to the Unheard Edition. Now, there aren't any dates on this, so for how long it will last, I'm not sure. And in addition to that, for those that don't know, the discount does not, these discounts don't apply if you have an EOD account upgrading to Unheard. There's already a 50% discount that's like permanent that was done as a result of all the Unheard drama last year. But so if you have an EOD, it's not cheaper for you to upgrade. It's still the 50%, what is it, 50 bucks, I think, to upgrade. But if you have another account or you're buying the game all in, it's 22% cheaper. And yes, you're not wrong, 22% is a weird number. I couldn't find any other time that they've done something like this before. It doesn't mean they didn't do it, I just couldn't find it. And with how BSG likes to play numbers games, this could definitely mean something. Saying this means wipe is the 22nd definitely isn't completely insane, but definitely don't bet the farm on it, not just yet anyways. Now again, they didn't put an end date on any of this, so my guess is it's gonna run until the next wipe or patch, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so that's just my best guess. So if you're looking to do this, don't wait around for it, just get it done and out of the way. Now, for the Nikki leak, we got a peek at a new tracksuit outfit. It's very similar to Killa's, except it's obviously red. But if you compare them side by side, it has some more subtle differences. Things like the red one has a little scav emblem on the left chest instead of the Adibas emblem, Adibas, said that wrong. And that is significant, but I'm not sure exactly how yet. Maybe it's pointing to how you unlock it, or who wears it in terms of NPCs in the game. There's also a gold chain around the neck and a gold ring, which makes me think more that this is gonna be for either a boss or maybe some specific individual in the 1.0 storyline. We'll just have to wait and see. But one thing is for sure, lots of people want the ability to be able to buy this and wear it. And if BSG puts it up for sale, it'll sell like crazy, I'm sure. Now, on to the really important thing here. Everybody needs to hear about this. And this goes to anybody who has more than 7 items stacked inside one another. So I think backpacks are the big one. If you have a huge stack of backpacks, which I do too, I'm gonna have to clean that up. BSG has found some kind of issue with lots of items stacked inside another one. It's causing problems with people being able to log in and things like that. So to fix this, they are going to permanently limit players to a maximum of 7 items stacked inside one another. Once this update goes through, all of the items that exceed the limit will be deleted. They are saying that if you lose items, you will be compensated, but I'd look at that about the same as the compensatory money you get from a cheater report. So, you know, you lose a 500,000 ruble kit to a cheater, you get like 30 or 40K back, right? Think of the same deal. It's probably not gonna be a lot of money if you have all your streamer items or gear buried inside backpacks. I know there's a lot of you guys out there that abuse the partisan bags. Liston's definitely one of them, because it's like an infinite storage for helmets and ears and things like that. If you're one of those folks, make sure you go through and fix all of your items so you don't have any more than 7 buried deep, because they will get deleted. Now, while backpacks are the primary culprit here, this will apply to anything that stacks inside of anything else, even if it's different items. So make sure you go through your stashes and make sure nothing's more than 7 items. In fact, I would dare say 5 or 6 so that you don't mistake or, you know, something weird doesn't happen anyways. For me, it's mostly just backpacks stacked inside backpacks, so I might not even deal with it because at the end of the wipe, who cares about, you know, 10 tri-zips getting deleted? But if you're in PvE, I know BSG said this is a bigger issue in PvE. If you're a PvE player, you might have lots of stuff stuffed in backpacks in different places. Make sure you get your stuff sorted. Now, as a quick point to add on to this, self-serving, but if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. not just because it helps me out, which it does, but it tells YouTube you want to see this and more of my content. And we always do these kind of videos and updates when there's important stuff like this. So make sure you're here, because then we get the word spread as fast as possible. And you don't want to be that guy in your friend group who has his backpacks deleted because you didn't click the like button or you didn't see the video. Or do you want to be that guy? Anyways, we'll get on to the hardcore wipe in, folks. I know that's what a lot of you guys care about too. BSG is giving specific details about the upcoming hardcore wipe now, which is good. We were getting it ahead of, I was worried we weren't gonna get anything until wipe. It's nice that they're giving this ahead of time, you know, instead of just with patch notes. And as is pretty usual for them, they're kind of trickling this info out to build up hype. They do that, that's really normal. It's just real BSG does all the time. And to do that, they posted this graphic, which based on the top little dots up here, it looks like there's gonna be 3 pages we're gonna get, and this is the first one. And the first one had some juicy info in it. First up, obviously, and expected by almost everyone, the flea market is gonna be disabled. Now, I think the wording here is important. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of event or mechanic later in wipe that provides limited flea market usage eventually, but how that plays out is impossible to say. And this is just me 100% like, guessing and I don't know they haven't said anything that they're going to unlock the flea market, but the fact that they're saying that the flea market is going to be disabled versus removed might not mean anything, but I think there's a little play on language there. And like I said, this could play out to be anything from like a week-long free-for-all based on some Ragman event, or it could be a single day that it unlocks, to something even as insanely restrictive as you get a limited number of sales or buys over a week or something. You know, there's just crazy ideas I've got, but I think that they're leaving the door open here that the flea market could maybe be turned back on in some capacity. We just have to wait and see. Now, me personally, I loved how the start of the wipe went, and a lot of other players did too. The lack of the flea market meant nearly every player had interesting loot on them, no one had meta gear, and all this led to far more interesting raids and PvP engagements. But players knowing the flea was coming back still led to some emergent behaviors with people saving up loot and hoarding it to sell once it turned on. Having a whole wipe without the flea is going to be a very interesting test. Now, last time, the start of the wipe, there was some glaring issues with no flea, but they didn't really fester because we eventually got the flea back. But if BSG doesn't address these this time around, it'll be a much bigger problem as we get more, let's say about a month into the wipe and longer. Many of the barters and a large chunk of the crafts are built and or balanced around the idea that we have access to a flea market. And if changes aren't made to these, and then the player base is gonna suffer quite a bit from some of the larger gaps in gear. And these really, from what I remember, these really showed up before level 2 traders, kind of in that level 10 to 20 range, and between level 3 and 4 traders. There's another like huge gap there as you're pushing your way through your 30s up to level 40, where you just don't have access to lots of class 5 armor or any class 5 armor or any really good class 4 plates, and then some of the attachments and things like that. And while there are tons of crafts that will become meaningful and useful now that we don't have a flea market where you can just buy everything, and BSG did add some at the start of last wipe to help folks with the hideout RNG, there are many crafts that are just nonsensical without a flea, and barters as well. Many of the crafts in like the Intel Center, for example, are nearly impossible to do in any meaningful amount of raids without being able to buy the items. So while I think overall the removal of the flea will be a really fun change, if BSG doesn't do some gap fills in the background systems, it'll be a huge missed opportunity. Now, I just want to make a quick note to all the folks bitching and moaning about this or hate it and are claiming this will be the least played wipe or that's going to hurt casuals. Just stop. You don't speak for the player base. I don't speak for the player base, and I'm not trying to. But I will remind you that every single poll done overwhelmingly showed that the community supported or enjoyed playing without a flea market. It doesn't matter if it was me doing the poll, Landmark, Stankrat, or even BSG themselves. All the data showed the community really enjoyed and had more fun when there was no flea market. Now, that doesn't mean it was perfect. That doesn't mean that couldn't make improvements bent, but this idea that because they're gonna be hardcore wipe, it's gonna kill the game, you need to get over yourself. Your opinion isn't the key opinion for everybody. So just keep that in mind before you try to attempt to speak for large swaths of players and what they want out of the game, because if you think that this is gonna be a bad wipe, you probably aren't speaking for a large swath of players. Now, with those shots over the bow out of the way, let's look at the next two, because they're really important, they're linked. More items are going to be required for the hideout zones, and there is no longer a found and raid requirement for the hideout. The first one is a bit vague on what it means, and this matters on how good or bad the change will be. If, for example, they're just increasing the number of items that are required, this is a bad change. If, however, they are making the items required, they're more diverse items required, I think it'll be a good change. So, simpler put, if they're making modules require 9 bolts instead of 4, or 40 bulbs instead of 15, that's bad. But if they are going from, let's say, 15 bulbs down to 5, but then they require you to also get 5 each of 2 other items, so it's still the same amount of items, but it's more diverse, I think that'll be a good change. The requirements to find 10 or 20 of a single item is something that was built around the flea just to jack up the price of building, a module as part of the progression. It doesn't fit if there's no flea. Now, the found and raid change might not seem like all that big of a deal because they're getting rid of the flea anyways, right? Well, it will be pretty important in terms of barters and high value items you can put in your secure container. First up, not only does this mean now you don't have to survive with LEDX to get your med station upgraded, it also means that the barters for LEDX can be used once again for upgrades. And there's a few other barters, things like Olov items and the all and soap and some other stuff in there that you can use. I did notice they removed a bunch from ref, so I don't know if they're gonna put those back. There were a bunch of items you could barter for ref, but I didn't see them. I don't know if there was a bug on my game or if they did pull those out. Hopefully those are back in because there were some handy barters on ref for the hideout. They didn't matter last wipe because I found a raid requirement obviously, but this wipe they will. This also opens up the door for BSG to quickly balance things once the wipe starts. If some item is giving people a particular problem, like last wipe it was things like LCD screens and drills and some other stuff. I can't remember what they all were, but they added some crafts for those. Those were giving people particular problems. They added crafts to make it a little bit easier. So if we run into another one of those situations, either through, crafting or upgrades, or maybe some of the barter systems, they can throw in a barter really easily and quickly to fill that gap versus having to monkey around with loot pools, which can be kind of dicey and can cause other problems. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. It could be great. Now, the next one has been an ongoing issue for me personally with the hideout for years. The availability of high-end ammo in the hideout, and we're currently seeing the fruits of that in this wipe. The biggest culprit being M61, because the craft is pretty quick, provides a decent quantity, it doesn't really cost all that much, and it can be fired in a few automatic weapons. That means it's insanely common. And at 55 pen, M61 pretty much renders all armor useless. So that's what players will do. The meta shifts to MDRs mostly, but still some SA58s, and people can just mag dump other players with M61 because it provides the most consistent and quick TTK. So pulling out some of the top tier ammos will be great and will help solve this a little bit and spread out the meta and make more guns more viable. But I hope they backfill these crafts they're removing with some of the mid-range ammos to give players more choices in what kind of guns they want to run versus what they just have to find ammo in raid. Now, this last point is the one that received the most pushback from the community, and probably rightfully so, and it ran the gambit. I saw everybody from clean to glorious E being apprehensive or not really liking this, and those are two individuals with about as opposite play styles and desires for Tarkov as it gets. And this did lead to a clarification from BSG. So basically what they tried to say is they didn't mean loot overall would be reduced, but more that the quality of loot on the map would be turned down. Specifically, they mentioned things like weapon parts, ammo, and that the current loot levels in the mark rooms wouldn't remain, like they buffed mark rooms this week. That's not gonna stay for the hardcore side of the wipe. Now, I'm still unsure about this and kind of on the fence, so I'm leaning towards not liking it. We'll just have to see what it means. As it sits right now, BSG has some specific idea about what they want players finding in raid, and what that is isn't being really well communicated. Without a flea, overall loot value should be higher in my opinion, because the value isn't so important because you're not trying to make money anymore. You're looking for specific items for barters and things like that, or crafts. So that what is valuable is kind of vague. So by turning down valuable loot, that opens up the space for more mid-tier loot, which the mid-tier loot is what crafting and barters are kind of all about. Like most people just pass up on a cat or a teapot because there's better, you know, single slot items for money for selling on the flea. But once you get into barters, things like those are really valuable. Like I never pick up lions because they're super heavy and they're only worth like 100K, right? So what is it, 15K a slot or 12K a slot or something like that? Well, once we have a hardcore wipe, things like a lion are really good with some of the ragman barters because you get some good class 5. One of the Gen 5s or Gen 4s class 5 armors is a 3 lion barters, I think, or it's one of the Reddits. It's one of the better class 5 armors is 3 lions. So now lions become kind of important again. So what this actually means and how it's going to play out is it's not very well described yet, which is why I'm not really getting too spooled up over it. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see where that settles out, what that means, and maybe we get some better clarification on where they're trying to go with it and their goal of why they're turning the loot down. Okay, quite literally, as I was uploading the video, we got another tweet from Nikita. Let me pull it up here real quick so you guys can see it and not just the video. More of the devlog stuff he does, Nikki Leaks, however you want to do it. So let's take a quick peek, go through it bit by bit. Is going to be something, event, video, something along those lines, Chronicles of Rigi, whatever it might be. Then we got a picture of some code. Now, I don't speak code. I threw this into Grok to see what its summary was, and it didn't really know either because there wasn't enough information, but it seemed to have something to do with a robust messaging system. So I don't know what that means. If you're a coder, nerd kind of person, geek, whatever, I don't say that to be like mean. Like if you're actually smart in this stuff and you know what this might mean, by all means share your opinions. I'm curious as to what all of you that are educated in code might think this is. Then we're seeing him cut open. This is a 7.62 by 54R round, and he's cutting off the back half of the case. This could just be Tarkov basement guy that he's a BSG employee, but he does some funny clips and he does some stuff with like crafting. This could also be something like, it makes me think of the hybrid round because the hybrid round is kind of like this, where the back part of the casing is cut off with just different materials and stuff. Just speaking off the cuff here, last minute, but just interesting little clip of them cutting. This is Skier, or at least what we've seen is Skier walking by what appears to be maybe terminal in some kind of video clip. Hard to tell exactly. Just have to kind of wait and see. More stuff with the double barrel, the same code. It was no different. This is a storyboard of something, so I'm guessing something either to do with 1.0 or a video they're doing, storyboarding, trying to give specific details about what's happening. I have no idea what this is. Maybe, some people are going to say this is going to be Black Division or something like that, but we'll see. Then this is the big one, carrying people. Like, oh my God, if we get this in game, this on the smallest level, if we're able to move bodies around, that's pretty cool. Be able to drag your buddy's body out of the way, or hide it, or move loot, or make it so an area isn't quite so obvious that you were there because you killed a scav or something. But this could also mean that we might actually still get the downed state with 1.0. It's something that was kind of on the chopping block and might have been removed. We don't really know as far as getting a downed state or an unconscious state in the game. So it's really cool to see this. I guess the worst case scenario is that it could also just be something for an animation in a cutscene or something part of the 1.0 storyline that isn't really a game mechanic other than used once or twice, maybe. Just have to remain to be seen. But that's super cool. That's exciting to see. Again, more of the code beaten on. Like, the good thing, anybody that's worried about this and think that's bad, if you look right there, the primer's already been fired. This is a dead round. This makes me think again that this is the Tarkov basement guy doing some kind of funny clip with crafting. I'd have to go look and see if, like, this is 7.62 by 54 RPS and you're turning it into BT. Like, that's one of the crafts. That kind of makes me think that's what this is, because that's the only reason I could think of hitting the backside of a round with a hammer like this would be just for memes, nothing real. But that's that. We'll stick this into the video in the middle since it was kind of a last minute deal, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we talked about before, because I have to imagine if you're this far into the video, you liked it, right? Plus, it helps me out a ton on YouTube, and if you want to see more of this content, it lets them know that. Also, subscribe if you want to make sure you want to see these videos before your backpacks get deleted, and not after. We will do some more videos as more of these pages are revealed, but until then, Good luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.